Commander Velthar sat in his observation chair and stared at the blue planet on his main screen. He had been watching this world for 3 months now. His ship floated quietly in the darkness of space, hidden from the beings below. They could not see him. They did not even know he was there. Velthar was part of the Galactic Council. His job was simple. He traveled through space looking for new worlds with intelligent life. When he found them, he watched them carefully. He took notes about everything they did. Then he sent reports back to the Council. The Council would decide what to do next. For 12,000 years, the Council had watched over the galaxy. They knew about 300 different species. Some were peaceful. Some were warriors. Some lived in the water. Some flew through the air. But all of them followed certain patterns. All of them made sense to Velthar, until now. The beings on the blue planet called themselves humans. They called their world Earth. And they were completely different from anything Velthar had ever seen before. They confused him. They scared him. They fascinated him. Velthar pressed a button on his control panel. The screen changed to show different parts of Earth. He had collected so much information over the past months. Now he had to organize it all into a report. But where should he start? He decided to begin with the planet itself. Earth was what the Council called a death world. This meant it was extremely dangerous. The temperature changed wildly from place to place. Some areas were frozen solid with ice. Other areas were so hot that nothing could survive there. The planet had huge storms that could destroy entire cities. It had earthquakes that shook the ground. It had volcanoes that exploded with fire and smoke. Most species would never evolve on such a world. It was too dangerous, too unpredictable. But humans did not just evolve there. They thrived there. They lived in every environment imaginable. Velthar had watched them survive in frozen places where the temperature dropped far below zero. He had watched them live in burning deserts where water was almost impossible to find. He had watched them climb the highest mountains and dive into the deepest oceans. How did they do it? They adapted. They learned. They refused to give up. When the environment was too cold, they made warm clothes and built heated shelters. When it was too hot, they found ways to stay cool. When food was scarce, they learned to grow their own. They solved every problem their planet threw at them. Velthar made careful notes about all of this. But the planet was only the beginning. The humans themselves were just as unusual. Their bodies were incredibly strong compared to other species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill most beings. Their immune systems fought off diseases that would wipe out entire populations of other species. They healed quickly from wounds. They adapted to new environments within a single generation. But physical strength was not their most impressive quality. What really caught Velthar's attention was their minds. Humans were incredibly creative. They invented things constantly. They solved problems in ways that Velthar would never have imagined. When they wanted to fly but had no wings, they built machines to carry them through the air. When they wanted to explore the ocean depths but could not breathe underwater, they built vessels to protect them. When they wanted to see the stars up close, they built rockets and launched themselves into space. And they did all of this incredibly quickly. Velthar studied their history files. He hacked into their computer networks and read everything he could find. What he discovered amazed him. Just 200 years ago, humans were still using animals to pull carts. They communicated by writing letters on paper. They lived in small villages and towns. Now they had computers that could process billions of calculations per second. They had machines that could fly faster than sound. They had weapons powerful enough to destroy their entire planet. They had sent machines to every planet in their solar system. They had landed actual humans on their own moon. All of this progress happened in just 200 years. Most species took thousands of years to make such advances. Some took tens of thousands of years. But humans did it in a fraction of that time. Their rate of progress was exponential. It was accelerating. Every year they invented more things. Every year they learned more. Every year they grew stronger. Velthar found this both impressive and terrifying. What would humans be capable of in another 100 years, another 1,000 years? If they kept advancing at this rate, they would surpass most council species within a few generations. But there was something else that worried Velthar even more. Humans were not peaceful. They fought each other constantly. Their entire history was filled with wars and conflicts. They had divided themselves into different groups called nations. These nations competed with each other. They fought over land, resources, and ideas. They developed terrible weapons to use against each other. Velthar watched their news broadcasts. He saw reports of violence and destruction. He saw humans hurting other humans. He saw them destroying parts of their own planet. He saw greed and anger and hatred. This matched the pattern of Death World species. Most peaceful species evolved on safe, stable planets. They learned cooperation because cooperation was easy. But humans evolved on a harsh world where survival was difficult. They learned to compete. They learned to fight. They developed aggressive instincts because those instincts kept them alive. Yet there was something confusing about humans. Despite all their violence and conflict, they were also capable of great kindness. Velthar watched them rescue animals from danger. He watched them help strangers in need. He watched them create beautiful art and music. He watched them care for their sick and elderly. He watched them risk their own lives to save others. How could one species be so contradictory? How could they be both violent and gentle, both destructive and creative, both selfish and selfless? Velthar could not understand it. None of the patterns in the Council database could explain human behavior. He spent days trying to write his report. He rewrote it multiple times. Each time he felt like he was missing something important. Finally, he decided to be honest. He would tell the Council everything he had observed. He would share his concerns. He would let them decide what to do. Velthar typed his final report. He included all his data. He added images and video recordings. He wrote detailed descriptions of human behavior and capabilities. Then he came to the most important part, the conclusion. What did he recommend? He thought about it for a long time. Then he wrote his recommendation. The Council should establish a quarantine zone around Earth's solar system. They should monitor humans closely. But they should not make contact. Not yet, perhaps not ever. Humans were too unpredictable. Too dangerous. Too different. If humans ever developed faster than light travel, they would spread across the galaxy. They would encounter other species. They would bring their violence and their unpredictability with them. The galaxy might never recover. Velthar read through his report one final time. It was thorough. It was honest. It was accurate. But it needed a title. Something that would grab the Council's attention. Something that would make them take his concerns seriously. He thought for a moment. Then he typed the title. It broke protocol to use such informal language, but he did not care. The situation demanded urgency. The situation demanded clarity. Holy crap, don't let the humans out. Velthar pressed the button to send his report to the Council headquarters. The transmission would take 3 days to reach them. Then they would read it. Then they would debate. Then they would decide humanity's fate. He sat back in his chair and looked at Earth one more time. The blue planet rotated slowly below him. Millions of humans went about their daily lives completely unaware that they were being watched, completely unaware that their future hung in the balance. Velthar felt a strange mixture of emotions. He was fascinated by humans. He admired their strength and creativity. Part of him wanted to meet them, to talk with them, to learn from them. But another part of him was genuinely afraid. What if humans brought chaos to the peaceful galaxy? What if their violent nature caused wars between species? What if their rapid advancement upset the delicate balance the Council had maintained for thousands of years? He did not know the answers to these questions. But he knew one thing for certain. Humanity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before, and whether that was wonderful or terrible remained to be seen. The Council chamber was massive. It floated in space like a small moon. Inside, representatives from 300 different species gathered in the main hall. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. The floor was made of crystal that glowed with soft light. High Counselor Zara 9 stood at the center of the chamber. Her body was made entirely of living crystal. Light moved through her form in beautiful patterns. She was ancient, having served the Council for over 5,000 years. She had seen many things in her time, but what she was reading now shocked even her. Velthar's report had arrived 3 days ago. Since then, it had spread through the Council like wildfire. Every member had read it. Every member had questions. Every member wanted to discuss what should be done about the humans. Zara 9 called the assembly to order. Her voice rang out like crystal bells. The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of different beings turned their attention to her. Some had eyes, some used other senses, but all of them focused on what she was about to say. We are here to discuss Commander Velthar's report on the species known as humans. I have read this report 3 times. Each time I find it more concerning. I will now open the floor for discussion. Ambassador Lockfell was the first to speak. He came from a world where all life lived in harmony. His species had never known war or conflict. They communicated through gentle sounds like wind chimes. When he spoke, his voice was soft and musical. I have reviewed Commander Velthar's data with great care. I must say that I cannot believe these findings are accurate. No species could survive the conditions described on Earth. The temperature variations alone would be fatal to most life forms. The radiation from their sun is dangerous. The gravity is crushing. The oxygen levels would poison most beings. Science Director Mira 12 floated forward. She had no solid body. She was pure energy contained within a force field. Her voice was like electricity crackling through the air. The data has been verified multiple times. I ran my own analysis. Everything Commander Velthar reported is true. Earth is indeed a death world. The humans have evolved to survive conditions that would kill any of us within hours. Their bodies are far more resilient than standard galactic life forms. A murmur ran through the chamber. Different species communicated their shock in different ways. Some made sounds. Some changed colors. Some released chemical signals. The air filled with expressions of disbelief. General Krellhark stood up from his seat. He was huge, covered in thick armor plating. His species were warriors, one of the few aggressive races in the council. He spoke with a deep, rumbling voice. We are asking the wrong questions. Their planet does not matter. Their physical resilience does not matter. What matters is their military capability. Can they threaten us? Can they wage war? Zara 9's crystal form flickered. She had expected this question. According to Commander Velthar's assessment, humans currently possess primitive military technology by our standards. They have chemical weapons and nuclear devices. Their spacecraft use simple rocket propulsion. They cannot travel faster than light. By these measures, they pose no immediate military threat. So why are we concerned? Another counselor asked. If they are primitive, let them be. We can revisit contact in a few thousand years when they are more developed. Zara 9 projected images into the air above the assembly. The holographic displays showed human history, cities rising and falling, inventions appearing at an incredible rate, technology advancing faster and faster. Because of this, their rate of advancement is unprecedented. Look at these timelines. Most species take 10,000 years to go from basic tools to spaceflight. The Krell took 15,000 years. The Harmony people took 20,000 years. The humans did it in less than 5,000 years. And their progress is accelerating. She zoomed in on recent human history. Just 66 of their years ago, humans achieved powered flight. Now they have walked on their moon. They have sent machines to every planet in their system. They have built space stations. They have split the atom and harnessed nuclear energy, all in less than one human lifetime. If they continue at this rate, Zara 9 continued, they will achieve faster than light travel within the next 2 centuries, perhaps sooner. And once they can travel between stars, there will be no containing them. The chamber erupted in debate. Counselors argued with each other. Some thought the concerns were exaggerated. Others thought they did not go far enough. The noise grew louder and more chaotic. Zara 9 created a pulse of light that silenced the chamber. Order. We must maintain order. I understand that this is difficult news, but we must discuss it calmly and rationally. Ambassador Lockfell spoke again. What troubles me most is not their technology but their nature. According to the report, humans are constantly fighting each other. They wage wars over territory, resources, and beliefs. They have nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. How can we welcome such a violent species into our peaceful galaxy? But they have also shown remarkable cooperation, Mira 12 countered. Yes, they fight, but they also form alliances. They create international organizations. They work together on massive projects. They have achieved global communication and trade. They are trying to overcome their violent past. Trying is not the same as succeeding, General Krellhark growled. A species that still wages war on itself cannot be trusted in the wider galaxy. What happens when they direct that aggression outward? What happens when they encounter other species and decide we are threats or obstacles or resources to be exploited? At that moment, A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It was Commander Velthar himself, transmitted from his observation post near Earth. He had been listening to the debate. "Counselors, I respectfully request permission to speak." Zara 9 gave him permission with a gesture. Velthar's 3 eyes swept across the assembled beings. "I have watched these humans for 3 months. I have studied them more closely than any other species in my career. And I want to be clear about something. They scare me. They genuinely frighten me in a way that nothing else has in my 200 years of service." The chamber went completely silent. Every being listened intently, but not because they are evil or malicious. They frighten me because they are unpredictable, because they refuse to accept limits, because when faced with an impossible problem, their first instinct is to solve it rather than avoid it. They do not back down from challenges. They run toward them. Most species in the Council evolved on safe worlds. You learned cooperation because it was easy. You learned peace because conflict was rare. You developed slowly and steadily because your environments were stable. This created species that value caution and patience. These are good qualities. They have kept the galaxy peaceful for thousands of years. But humans evolved differently. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They learned to fight because they had to. They learned to adapt because the alternative was extinction. They developed quickly because they needed every advantage they could get. This created a species that values action and innovation above all else. Velthar paused, letting his words sink in. "I recommend a quarantine zone around their solar system. We monitor them closely. We study them carefully. But we do not make contact. Not until we better understand what kind of impact they will have on the galactic community. Perhaps, if we are fortunate, they will destroy themselves before achieving faster-than-light travel. Many Deathworld species do. The conditions that make them strong also make them self-destructive. But if they do not, if they survive and reach the stars, then we will need to make a very difficult decision. Do we welcome them and hope their positive qualities outweigh their dangerous ones? Or do we try to contain them and risk making them our enemies? I cannot make that decision for you. I can only give you the information I have gathered and trust in your wisdom." The hologram faded. Velthar had said his piece. Now the council had to decide. For 3 days, the debate continued. Different factions formed. Some wanted immediate diplomatic contact. They believed humans could be guided toward peaceful development. Others wanted strict quarantine. They believed isolation was the only safe option. A small group even suggested preemptive military action, though this idea was quickly rejected by the majority. Finally, Zara 9 called for a vote. The question was simple. Should the Council establish a quarantine zone around Earth's solar system and postpone any contact with humanity until further notice? The vote was close. But in the end, caution won. 203 counselors voted for quarantine. 97 voted against. The decision was made. Humanity would be isolated. They would be watched from a distance, but there would be no contact. The galaxy would keep its secret, and humans would remain unaware that they were not alone in the universe. As the counselors filed out of the chamber, many felt they had made the right choice. They had protected the galaxy from a potential threat. They had bought time to better understand humans before making any irreversible decisions. But a few, including Zara 9 herself, felt uneasy. They had a nagging feeling that this decision might have been a mistake, that perhaps isolating humans would only make things worse, that maybe the best way to handle something unpredictable was not to hide from it, but to engage with it. But the decision was made. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Horizon Explorer and stared at the view screen in complete disbelief. He had been in space for exactly 47 hours and 12 minutes. This was supposed to be a simple test flight. Humanity's first faster-than-light voyage, out to Alpha Centauri and back. Nothing complicated, nothing unexpected, except they had just discovered that humanity was not alone in the universe. The massive space station hung before them like a small city. It was at least 10 kilometers long. Lights glowed along its surface. Ships of various sizes docked at multiple ports. Energy readings indicated active power systems far more advanced than anything humans had built. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Chen said from the communications console, her voice tight with tension. "We are being scanned. Multiple frequencies. Very sophisticated technology. way beyond our capabilities. Morrison gripped the armrests of his command chair. His heart was pounding, but his voice remained steady. Any hostile intent detected? Negative, sir. Just scanning. They seem to be analyzing us. The bridge crew was silent. 8 people who had trained for years to be humanity's first faster-than-light explorers. They had prepared for equipment failures. They had prepared for navigation errors. They had prepared for emergencies. But they had not prepared for this. Morrison took a deep breath. Lieutenant Chen, send a standard greeting on all frequencies. Tell them we come in peace. Before Chen could respond, the view screen flickered. An alien face appeared. The being had 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. Its skin was a pale blue color. It wore some kind of uniform. The alien's mouth moved. Strange sounds came out. Then, after a few seconds, a computer voice translated, "Human vessel. This is impossible. You were not supposed to achieve this technology for another 200 years. Morrison stood up and moved closer to the screen. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon Explorer. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. Who are you? The alien blinked, all 3 eyes in sequence. It seemed shocked. Then it spoke again. I am Commander Velthar of the Galactic Council Observation Fleet. Captain Morrison, I have been monitoring your planet for the past 3 months. You should not be here. Your species was projected to remain confined to your solar system for at least 2 more centuries. What happened? Morrison felt anger rising in his chest. Monitoring our planet. For 3 months. You have been spying on us. Velthar seemed uncomfortable. It is standard procedure. When we discover a new intelligent species, we observe them from a distance. We assess their development level. We determine if and when contact should be made. And what did you determine about us? Morrison asked coldly. Velthar hesitated. The pause stretched out uncomfortably. Finally, he spoke. I determined that contact should be delayed indefinitely. Perhaps permanently. I recommended that your solar system be quarantined. The bridge went completely silent. Morrison felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Quarantined, you wanted to lock us away. Keep us isolated. Why? Because your species is dangerous, Velthar said bluntly. Your planet is a death world. Your evolution has made you incredibly resilient and adaptable. Your rate of technological advancement is unprecedented. Your history is filled with violence and conflict. By every standard measure, humans represent a significant risk to galactic stability. Morrison's face flushed red. He took a step toward the screen. You judged us based on our history, based on our biology, without even talking to us, without giving us a chance to show you who we really are. It is not personal, Captain. It is standard protocol. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for 12,000 years by being cautious. We do not take risks with unknown variables, and that is what we are to you. An unknown variable. A risk to be managed. Morrison's voice was shaking with emotion now. We are not monsters, Commander. We are explorers. We are scientists. We are artists and engineers and dreamers. Yes, humanity has made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But we have also accomplished incredible things. We have built civilizations. We have created beauty. We have reached for the stars because we want to learn, to grow, to connect with something greater than ourselves. Velthar's expression softened slightly. I do not doubt your sincerity, Captain, and I admit that there is much about humans I find admirable. Your creativity, your determination, your refusal to accept limits. But these same qualities make you unpredictable. And unpredictable species are dangerous. So what happens now? Morrison asked.
You have already made your report.
You have already convinced your council to quarantine us. What do you do about the fact that we are standing here? That we have achieved faster-than-light travel 200 years ahead of your schedule? Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. This changes everything. The quarantine was based on the assumption that we had time. Time to study you more carefully. Time to prepare. Time to decide if and how to make contact. But you have forced the issue. Now the council must make an immediate decision. What kind of decision? Morrison asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Whether to welcome you or try to contain you. Whether to treat you as potential members of the galactic community or as a threat to be neutralized. Velthar looked uncomfortable saying these words. I will be honest with you, Captain. There will be factions in the council who argue for the latter option, especially now that you have demonstrated capabilities beyond what we predicted. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. He looked around at his crew. They were all young, brilliant people. The best Earth had to offer. They had come out here with hope and excitement. Now they were facing the possibility that humanity's first contact with alien life might also be its last. "Commander Velthar," Morrison said carefully, "I understand your concerns. I truly do. But I am asking you to give us a chance. Let me speak to your council. Let me show them that humans are more than just statistics and threat assessments. Let me prove that we deserve a place in the galaxy." Velthar studied Morrison through the screen. His three eyes moved independently, each one examining the human captain from a different angle. Finally, he spoke. "I will contact the council immediately. I will inform them of your arrival and request an emergency session. I will also recommend that they grant you an audience. But I cannot guarantee they will agree. And even if they do, convincing them will not be easy. Many counselors already fear what humans might become." Morrison nodded. "I understand. Thank you for giving us this opportunity." "Captain," Velthar said, and there was something almost like sympathy in his voice. "You should know something. My report to the council, the one that recommended quarantine. I titled it 'Holy Crap, Don't Let the Humans Out.' It became somewhat infamous. When you stand before the council, you will be fighting against the fear that report created." Morrison managed a grim smile. "Then I guess I had better give the speech of my life." The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his crew. They all looked at him with a mixture of fear and determination. He knew what they were thinking. They had left Earth as explorers. Now they were humanity's representatives. The fate of their entire species might rest on what happened next. "All right, everyone," Morrison said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "We have some time before the council responds. Let us use it to prepare. Lieutenant Chen, start compiling everything we know about human achievements. Science, art, culture, everything positive. Commander Lisa Turner, I need you to help me write a speech. The most important speech humanity has ever heard." The crew moved into action. But as Morrison sat back down in his chair, he could not shake the feeling that they were standing at a crossroads. One path led to humanity joining a vast galactic civilization. The other path led to isolation or worse, and the choice was not up to them. It was up to beings they had never met, in a chamber they had never seen, judging humanity based on fears they might never overcome. Morrison looked out at the alien station, at the proof that humanity was not alone. He thought about all the people back on Earth. Billions of humans going about their lives unaware that their future was being decided in the darkness of space. He would not let them down. He could not. Whatever happened next, he would make sure the galaxy knew that humans were worth knowing. The journey to the council headquarters took 3 weeks. 3 weeks for Morrison and his crew to prepare. 3 weeks to gather their thoughts and rehearse their arguments. 3 weeks to carry the weight of representing their entire species. Commander Lisa Turner worked beside Morrison every day, helping him refine his speech. She was a biologist and a trained diplomat. Her scientific mind helped them organize the facts. Her diplomatic experience helped them frame the message. "We need to acknowledge our flaws," Turner said one evening as they reviewed his notes. "If we pretend to be perfect, they will see right through it. But we also need to show how those flaws have made us stronger." Morrison nodded. "I know. I just hope they will listen." When they finally arrived at the council headquarters, Morrison was struck by its size. The structure was enormous. It made any building on Earth look tiny by comparison. It gleamed in the light of a nearby star, beautiful and intimidating. Commander Velthar met them at the docking bay. He escorted them through corridors filled with alien beings. Morrison saw creatures of every imaginable shape and size. Some walked on legs. Some floated through the air. Some seemed to be made of energy. Some looked like living rocks or plants or things he had no words to describe. They all stopped and stared at the humans. Morrison could feel their eyes on him. He could sense their curiosity, their caution, their fear. "The council has agreed to hear you," Velthar explained as they walked. "This is unprecedented. Never before has a species been allowed to address the full council so soon after discovery. You should understand that many members are skeptical. Some are actively hostile to the idea of accepting humans. Thank you for arranging this," Morrison said. "I know you took a risk advocating for us." Velthar made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "After spending time with you, I believe you deserve a fair hearing. What you do with that opportunity is up to you." The council chamber was even more impressive than Morrison had imagined. It was massive, with seating arranged in circular tiers rising toward the ceiling. Hundreds of beings filled those seats. The air hummed with different languages and communication methods. Lights flashed. Sounds chirped and buzzed. Scents wafted through the air. At the center of it all stood High Counselor Zara 9. Her crystalline body caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. When she spoke, her voice rang out clearly, cutting through the noise. Order. The assembly will come to order. We are gathered today to hear from representatives of the human species. This is an unusual situation. The humans have achieved faster than light travel far ahead of our projections. They have forced us to confront the question of their integration sooner than expected. She turned her attention to Morrison and Turner. Captain Jake Morrison and Commander Lisa Turner of Earth. You have requested the opportunity to address this council. You will be given that opportunity, but understand that what you say here will determine the future relationship between humanity and the galactic community. Choose your words carefully. Morrison stepped forward. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand tall. He looked around at all the alien faces watching him. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. High Counselor, members of the Galactic Council, he began. His voice carried through the chamber, translated instantly into hundreds of languages. I stand before you not to defend humanity, but to help you understand us. We are aware of the concerns that have been raised. We know that Commander Velthar recommended quarantine. We know that many of you see us as dangerous, and I will not lie to you and say those concerns are baseless. A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not what they had expected. Morrison pressed on. Humanity is not perfect. Our history includes wars, conflicts, and terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other. We have damaged our planet. We have created weapons capable of destroying everything we have built. These are facts. I will not pretend otherwise. But I ask you to consider why we are this way. Earth is not like your worlds. From what Commander Velthar has told us, most of you evolved on planets that were relatively safe and stable. You faced challenges, certainly, but not the kind of constant, deadly challenges that humans face every single day. Morrison gestured to a holographic display that Turner activated. Images of Earth appeared. Hurricanes tearing through cities, earthquakes splitting the ground, volcanoes erupting, ice sheets stretching for thousands of kilometers. This is our home. A world where the temperature can vary by 60 degrees, where the weather can kill you in minutes, where the ground itself can open up and swallow entire regions, where the air contains oxygen at levels that would be toxic to many of you, where the gravity is 30% stronger than galactic standard. We did not choose to evolve on a death world, but we did. And that shaped us. It made us tough. It made us adaptable. It made us creative problem solvers because we had to be. Every single day, our ancestors faced the choice between adapting or dying. And they chose to adapt. Turner stepped forward to speak. I am a biologist. I have studied the evolutionary histories of as many council species as I could access in our short time here. Do you know what I noticed? Most of you evolved as prey animals. You learned to cooperate because predators threatened you. You developed intelligence to avoid danger. Your entire evolutionary path was about survival through caution. Humans are different. We evolved as hunters, as predators, but not solitary predators like your apex species. We were social predators who had to work together to survive even larger predators. We learned cooperation not to avoid danger, but to face it. This gave us a unique combination. The aggression and determination of a predator combined with the social bonds and teamwork of a prey species. Yes, this makes us dangerous. But it also makes us survivors. And more importantly, it makes us capable of change. We are not locked into our aggressive instincts. We have proven over the past century that we can choose cooperation over conflict. Morrison took over again. Let me tell you about the last 100 years of human history. We call it our greatest achievement. A century ago, our world was divided into dozens of nations constantly competing and fighting. We had just finished the deadliest war in our history. Millions had died. Our cities were in ruins. We had developed nuclear weapons capable of ending all life on our planet. Everyone expected more wars. Everyone expected us to destroy ourselves. And we came very close. For decades, two massive alliances pointed weapons at each other. The tension was incredible. One mistake could have ended everything. But we did not destroy ourselves. Instead, we chose something harder. We chose peace. Not because violence became impossible, but because we realized cooperation was better. We built international organizations. We established trade agreements. We created systems for resolving disputes without war. It was slow. It was difficult. It was messy. But we did it. Today, Earth is united. Not perfectly. We still have disagreements. We still have problems to solve. But we have not fought a major war in over 50 years. We have focused our energy on progress instead of destruction. We have worked together to solve global problems. And that is why we were able to build this ship and come here. Morrison paused and looked around the chamber. Our rapid technological advancement scares you. Commander Velthar's report said we progressed too fast, that we are unpredictable. And yes, we advance quickly. But that is because we have to. Our harsh world taught us that standing still means death. Innovation is not just something we do, it is who we are. But think about what that means for the galaxy. You have maintained peace for 12,000 years. That is incredible. Truly. But according to Commander Velthar, you have also faced challenges that you struggle to address. Resource allocation problems, expansion limitations, emerging threats from unexplored regions. Perhaps what you need is not another cautious species that approaches problems the same way you always have. Perhaps what you need is someone who thinks differently. Someone who looks at an impossible problem and says, we can solve this. Someone who runs toward challenges instead of avoiding them. General Krell Hark stood up from his seat. His armored form seemed even larger in the vast chamber. Your words are pretty, human, but words are cheap. What happens when you face your first real conflict? What happens when another species threatens your interests? Will you still talk about cooperation then, or will your predatory nature take over? Morrison met the general's gaze steadily. I cannot predict every possible future, but I can tell you what humans have learned. War is expensive. It destroys resources. It wastes lives. It creates problems that last for generations. We learned this the hard way through bitter experience. We now know that almost any problem can be solved better through cooperation than through conflict. But you are right to point out that we retain the capacity for violence. We do, and we will not pretend otherwise. If someone threatens us, we will defend ourselves. If someone harms those we care about, we will respond. But we will always try every other option first, and that is more than many purely peaceful species can say. Because here is something else Death World species understand. Sometimes peace requires strength. Sometimes preventing violence requires the willingness to use violence as a last resort. We do not believe in being aggressive, but we do believe in being ready. Morrison could not sleep. He stood by the large window in his guest quarters, staring out at the alien stars. Somewhere out there, far across the galaxy, was Earth. His home. A planet full of people who had no idea their entire future was being decided by beings they had never met. Commander Turner entered the room quietly. She had not been able to sleep either. She stood beside Morrison and looked out at the same view. Do you think we did enough? She asked softly. Morrison was quiet for a moment. I think we showed them the truth. We were honest about our flaws. We explained why we are the way we are. We showed them that humans are capable of change and growth. Whether that is enough, I do not know. But it is all we could do. Turner nodded. I keep thinking about all the people back home. Scientists who dream of meeting aliens. Children who look up at the stars and wonder what is out there. Artists who want to share their work with new audiences. They are all waiting for us to come back with news. I just hope the news is good. The cycle passed slowly. Morrison and Turner explored the station when they were allowed. They met a few aliens who were curious about humans. Some were friendly. Some were cautious. Some clearly wished the humans would just leave. Commander Velthar visited them several times. He told them about different council species. He explained galactic history and politics. He was trying to help them understand what they were up against. But he could not tell them how the vote would go. He did not know himself. The debate is intense, Velthar admitted during one visit. Some counselors were moved by your speech. They see potential in humanity. They believe you could contribute valuable perspectives to the galaxy. But others remain convinced that you are too dangerous. They point to your history of violence. They fear what humans might do once you have access to advanced technology. What do you think? Morrison asked. You have spent more time studying us than anyone. What is your honest opinion? Velthar's three eyes blinked in sequence. He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. When I wrote my report, I was genuinely frightened of what humans might become. I saw all your dangerous qualities and none of your positive ones. But meeting you has changed my perspective. I see now that you are not simply violent creatures. You are complex. You contain both light and darkness, and you are aware of both. That self-awareness gives me hope. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the summons came. Morrison and Turner were escorted back to the council chamber. The massive room was packed with beings once again. The air hummed with anticipation. High Counselor Zara 9 stood at the center. Her crystalline form seemed to glow brighter than before. Morrison wondered if that meant something or if he was just imagining it. Captain Morrison, Commander Turner, Zara 9 began. Her voice filled the chamber. The Galactic Council has completed its deliberations. We have debated extensively. We have considered all arguments for and against accepting humanity into the galactic community. This decision was not made lightly. Morrison felt his heart pounding. Turner gripped his arm tightly. This was it, the vote was not unanimous. There are those among us who still harbor significant concerns about your species, your capacity for violence, your rapid advancement, your unpredictable nature. These concerns are not unfounded. We acknowledge them. Morrison felt his hope sinking. This sounded like a rejection. However, Zara 9 continued, the majority of the Council has determined that these concerns do not outweigh the potential benefits of welcoming humanity. We recognize that your species brings unique strengths to the galactic community. Your resilience, your creativity, your willingness to face challenges directly, your capacity for change and growth. She paused. Morrison held his breath. Therefore, the Galactic Council hereby extends an invitation to humanity to join as a provisional member species. For a period of 50 Earth years, humanity will have limited voting rights and will be subject to periodic reviews of your conduct and development. During this provisional period, you will have full access to Council resources, technologies, and support. You will also be expected to contribute to the galactic community through your knowledge, skills, and unique perspectives. Morrison felt tears forming in his eyes. Turner was crying openly. They had done it. Against all odds, they had convinced the Council to give humanity a chance. This is a probationary acceptance, Zara 9 emphasized. Humanity will be watched closely. Any violations of Council law will be taken very seriously. But if you prove yourselves during this period, full membership will follow. Do you accept these terms on behalf of your species? Morrison stepped forward. His voice was thick with emotion but strong. On behalf of humanity, we accept. We will not let you down. We will prove that your faith in us is justified. The chamber erupted in various sounds and lights. Some counselors were celebrating. Others still looked concerned. But the decision was made. Humanity was officially part of the galactic community. After the formal ceremony concluded, Commander Velthar approached them. He extended one of his three-fingered hands. Congratulations, Captain Commander. You have made history today. First contact is always significant, but this was extraordinary. Morrison shook the alien hand. Thank you, Commander. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We know you took a risk advocating for us. Velthar's expression seemed thoughtful. I must admit something to you both. When I wrote that report, when I titled it so informally, I was genuinely afraid. I looked at all your dangerous qualities and thought you were a threat that needed to be contained. But now, having met you, having heard you speak, I realize I was asking the wrong question. What do you mean? Turner asked. I was asking what happens if we let the humans out, what chaos they might cause, what problems they might create. But the real question is what happens if we do not. The galaxy has been peaceful for thousands of years. But peaceful does not mean perfect. We have problems we have struggled to solve for millennia. Resource disputes, expansion challenges, unknown threats emerging from unexplored space. Perhaps what we need is not more species that think like us. Perhaps we need someone who approaches problems differently. Someone who runs toward danger instead of away from it. Morrison said with a slight smile. Exactly. Velthar gestured toward the chamber where counselors were still milling about. Welcome to the galactic community, humans. I suspect you will make things very interesting. Morrison and Turner made their way back to the Horizon Explorer. They had messages to send. Earth needed to know what had happened. The news would spread quickly. First contact had been made. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. As they prepared for the journey home, Morrison thought about everything that had happened. They had left Earth as explorers on a simple test flight. They were returning as diplomats who had secured humanity's place among the stars. It was more than he had ever imagined possible. But he also knew this was just the beginning. The real work was ahead. Humanity would have to prove themselves. They would have to show the galaxy that the Council's faith was not misplaced. They would have to demonstrate that Deathworld species could be valuable members of a peaceful civilization. Turner joined him on the bridge as they prepared to depart. "Earth is going to go crazy when they hear this news," she said with a grin. "Can you imagine? Alien life exists, advanced civilizations spanning the galaxy, technology beyond our wildest dreams, and we are now part of it." Morrison smiled. "It is going to change everything. Science, culture, philosophy, everything. Nothing will ever be the same." The Horizon Explorer pulled away from the station. As they engaged their faster-than-light drive, Morrison took one last look at the Council headquarters. It represented everything humanity was about to become part of. Thousands of years of civilization, hundreds of species working together, knowledge and wisdom beyond measure, and somewhere in the archives of that station was Commander Velthar's original report. The one that had warned the galaxy about humans. The one titled, "Holy Crap, Don't Let the Humans Out." Morrison wondered if future historians would look at that report and laugh, or if they would see it as an important moment when the galaxy had to decide whether to embrace the unknown or hide from. The report that was meant to keep us contained became the document that forced them to confront their fears, Turner mused. "There is something poetic about that." Morrison nodded. "Commander Velthar said something interesting. He said the galaxy has been peaceful for a long time, but that does not mean it is perfect. They have problems they cannot solve, and maybe that is where we come in. Maybe our different approach, our willingness to tackle impossible problems is exactly what they need. So we are not just joining their civilization," Turner said thoughtfully. "We are going to change it. If we do it right," Morrison replied. "And if we remember who we are, not perfect beings but survivors, not saints but people trying to be better, not fearless but brave enough to face our fears." The stars streaked past as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them was a galaxy that had reluctantly opened its doors. Ahead of them was Earth, waiting for news that would change human history forever. Morrison settled into his command chair and smiled. The galaxy had tried to keep humans contained. They had debated and worried and feared what would happen if humans were let out, but in the end they had made the brave choice. They had chosen. 5 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 5 years of incredible change. Earth had transformed in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just a decade earlier. Ships from dozens of alien species now visited Earth regularly. Human diplomats served on council worlds across the galaxy. Students from Earth attended alien universities, while alien students came to study human history and culture. Trade flourished. Technology advanced at an astounding rate as humans learned from species that had been building civilizations for thousands of years. But the real test of humanity's place in the galaxy came unexpectedly. As such tests often do, the planet Kelmar 7 was home to 4 billion beings. They were peaceful farmers and artists, a gentle species that had never known war. Their world orbited a stable star in a quiet region of space. They had lived there peacefully for 8,000 years. Then the sensors detected it, a massive asteroid, pulled off course by the gravity of a passing rogue planet. It was heading straight for Kelmar 7. Impact would occur in 3 weeks. The asteroid was large enough to cause an extinction-level event. Everyone on the planet would die. The Council convened an emergency session. Scientists from dozens of species gathered to analyze the situation. The news was grim. The asteroid was too large to deflect with conventional methods. It was moving too fast, and there was not enough time to evacuate 4 billion beings. High Counselor Zara 9 addressed the assembly. Her crystalline form flickered with distress. "We must find a solution. We cannot abandon an entire world. Every species, every mind is precious to the Council, but our standard protocols are insufficient. The asteroid is simply too massive and moving too quickly. For 2 days, the best minds in the galaxy worked on the problem. They ran simulations. They calculated trajectories. They proposed solution after solution. But every proposal had fatal flaws. Not enough time. Not enough energy. Too risky. The physics simply did not work. The people of Kelmar 7 watched the sky with growing fear. They knew the asteroid was coming. They knew their time was running out. They sent messages to their families. They held their children. They prayed to their gods. They waited for the end. Then a human engineer named Pete Walsh proposed something radical. Walsh was part of a human team studying asteroid mining techniques. He was young, barely 30 years old, but he had a reputation for creative thinking. When he heard about the Kelmar 7 situation, he spent 36 hours running calculations. Then he presented his idea to the council. "What if we do not try to deflect it?" Walsh proposed. "What if we break it up instead? Place shaped explosive charges at key points throughout the asteroid, detonate them in a precise sequence. The asteroid shatters into smaller pieces that either miss the planet or burn up in the atmosphere." The council scientists listened with growing alarm. "The calculations are incredibly complex," one scientist objected. "The margin for error is minimal. If the charges are not placed perfectly, if the timing is off by even a fraction of a second, the asteroid could break apart in a way that makes the situation worse. You could create dozens of large fragments instead of one, multiple impacts instead of one." Walsh nodded. "Yes, that is the risk. But doing nothing is guaranteed death for everyone on Kelmar 7. This plan has a chance. Maybe not a great chance, but a chance." The council debated for hours. Many counselors were uncomfortable with the plan. It was too risky, too unpredictable, too likely to fail. If it went wrong, they would be responsible for making the disaster worse. General Krell Hark, who had initially opposed human membership, surprised everyone by supporting the plan. "Sometimes safe options do not exist. Sometimes you must choose between a dangerous action and certain destruction. I say we let the humans try." Commander Velthar also spoke in favor. "This is exactly what I said about humans 5 years ago. They run toward problems instead of away from them. They see impossible challenges and try to solve them anyway. We accepted them into the council because we hoped they would bring this perspective. Now is the time to trust it." The vote was close, but the council approved Walsh's plan. A team of human engineers was assembled immediately. Walsh led them. They had less than 2 weeks to make it work. The team worked around the clock. They used advanced council technology to reach the asteroid quickly. They analyzed its composition. They mapped its structure. They identified the weak points where charges would be most effective. Every calculation had to be perfect. Every placement had to be exact. Walsh himself went out in a spacesuit to place the final charges. It was dangerous work. The asteroid was rotating. The surface was unstable. One mistake could cost him his life, but he never hesitated. This was what humans did. They faced danger to save others. With 3 days left before impact, everything was ready. The charges were in place. The detonation sequence was programmed. All that remained was to execute the plan. Walsh returned to the command ship. He looked exhausted but determined. He reviewed the calculations one final time. Then he looked at Captain Morrison, who had come to oversee the operation. "Are you ready?" Morrison asked quietly. Walsh nodded. "As ready as I will ever be. Sir, if this goes wrong, tell my family I tried. Tell them I did everything I could. It will work." Morrison said with more confidence than he felt. "You are brilliant. Your team is brilliant. And you are doing this for the right reasons. That has to count for something." Walsh pressed the button. The command signal was sent. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then on the view screen, the asteroid began to glow. Brilliant flashes of light appeared at dozens of points across its surface. The charges were detonating in sequence exactly as planned. The asteroid shuddered. Cracks appeared along its surface. Then slowly at first, but accelerating quickly, it broke apart. Large chunks separated from the main body. Those chunks broke into smaller pieces. The smaller pieces broke further. Everyone held their breath. Was it working? Or had they just created a shotgun blast of deadly fragments? The science team analyzed the new trajectories frantically. Numbers scrolled across screens. Predictions were calculated and recalculated. Finally, after minutes that felt like hours, the lead scientist looked up. It worked. Most of the fragments will miss the planet completely. The few that will enter the atmosphere are small enough to burn up. Kelmar 7 is safe. The command ship erupted in celebration. Humans and aliens hugged each other. People cried with relief. They had done it. 4 billion lives had been saved. Walsh collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed with emotion. Morrison put a hand on his shoulder. "You did it. You saved them all." On Kelmar 7, the people watched the sky as the danger passed. Small meteors streaked across the atmosphere, creating beautiful light shows but causing no harm. The extinction event that had seemed inevitable had been prevented. The grateful population held celebrations across the planet. They erected a monument to the human team that had saved them. The monument showed Pete Walsh and his team standing together, with an inscription that would become famous throughout the galaxy. The inscription read, "They told us not to let the humans out. We are grateful we did not listen." When the council reconvened to discuss the incident, the mood had shifted dramatically. Even the counselors who had been most skeptical of humanity were impressed. High Counselor Zara 9 addressed the assembly with obvious pride. What the human team accomplished on Kelmar 7 demonstrates exactly why we accepted them into our community. They faced an impossible problem. They proposed a dangerous solution. They executed it flawlessly, and they did it all to save people they had never met. This is the best of what humanity offers. Commander Velthar stood at the monument's dedication ceremony, standing beside Morrison and Walsh. The alien commander placed a friendly appendage on Walsh's shoulder. "You know, I have been thinking about that old report of mine, the one with the informal title." Walsh looked at him curiously. "What about it?" "I have decided it should remain in the official archives exactly as written. Future generations should know that even those of us who were initially frightened of humanity came to see the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not taking a risk. Sometimes the most dangerous choice is playing it safe." Morrison smiled. "That report tried to keep us contained, but in a way it forced the council to confront their fears, to decide whether to embrace the unknown or hide from it." Velthar nodded. "And they made the brave choice, the right choice. The galaxy is better for it." As ships from dozens of species arrived for the ceremony, representing a galaxy that had grown closer through shared challenges, Morrison reflected on how far humanity had come. From a quarantined species deemed too dangerous to contact, to valued members of an interstellar civilization. The report that had warned the galaxy not to let the humans out had become a reminder. It reminded everyone that humanity's greatest strengths came from the very traits that had initially caused concern. Their adaptability, their determination, their willingness to face danger head-on. These were not flaws to be feared, but gifts to be celebrated. Back on Earth, in the archives of the United Earth Space Agency, a framed copy of Velthar's original report hung on the wall. Beneath it was a small plaque that read, "The report that changed everything," a reminder that sometimes the best response to fear is understanding, and the